So I want to welcome everyone. Can't believe we're actually at the end of 2021 almost. And so since we've been doing the quarterly online meetings, at the end of each year, we've been doing basically a year in review. So we're gonna go through, let's see, oh, there we go, okay. A quick update on our membership and our financial overview, and then our election results. And then I'll be handing it over to Jen to talk more about the projects and what the project review committee has been developing over the year. And then a big part, Barry's gonna take, we've been spending a lot of time this year developing a spinal cord injury research advocacy course. So Barry's gonna show you some of that. And then we'll end with some of our plans for 2022 and discussion. So there we go. There's a little bit of a delay. So it's kind of hard to believe NASCIC started from nothing in February of 2018. And so in that 4 years, we've had quite a bit of growth in membership. So you can also, if most people know, we have 3 different categories of membership. So the principal membership group is all of those nonprofits out there in the community that are led by individuals with spinal cord injuries or their teams. And then we've got individuals, patron members, that's people living with spinal cord injuries or their family and friends. And then we've got partner members, and that is all the other aspects of the spinal cord injury community. And so it can be spinal cord injury organizations, companies, funding agencies, all kinds of things like that. So we've actually had quite a bit of growth in the partnership category this year as well. And then on the right-hand side, you can see the map that we've been creating across North America of our members. And okay, last year we developed an outreach committee, and the outreach committee has been continuing through this year. So you can see who our members are: Jen Wolf, Taryn Clark, Rebecca Torres, Lihia Zuniga, and Jacques Camo. And I think most of those people are on this call now as well. So in addition to helping to develop internal and external communications for NASCIC for different activities, they also help to promote membership throughout the spinal cord injury community. And create and update content for distribution. One of the things that they've been starting to discuss this year, and this will actually be going much more in depth next year, is trying to develop a plan to promote diversification, not just in our membership, but also in our members that help to develop different programs that we create within NASCIC. But then on a broader level, which this is a problem on a broad level throughout research, is trying to promote more diverse members of our community to participate in research. So it's part of that will be understanding what are the barriers or hesitations to research participation, so that we can try to develop resources that may help overcome those barriers. So the outreach committee has been actively working on those things, and they'll continue working on that throughout the next year. And financially, we've been doing very good this year. You'll see income on the top here and expenses on the bottom. So the income, we've been very fortunate. This fall, we received a peer-reviewed grant from the Nielsen Foundation. And that's a 2-year grant that just started this fall, and it'll go until fall of 2023. And that is really to help develop the research advocacy course that Barry's going to tell you about. And we've also gotten a little bit of income through some of the projects that the PRC approves, and then a little bit through sponsorship. And then our expenses, the main expenses are in developing the educational course and maintaining website and different educational promotional things. So that's really where our main income is from and where our main expenses are. Okay, and for 2021, these are the groups that we've received either sponsorship donations from or the grant that we received from Craig Nielsen Foundation. So we're very, very appreciative to those companies and institutions that are helping support our activities. Now, many of you know that we had an election in October or November, actually we had in November. So we had opening for a new executive council seat and new vice president. So Jake Beckstrom is going to be our new executive council member starting in January. And Ian Burkhart will be our new vice president starting in January. And that leads me into the end of my part here. So rotating off of the executive council this year, we really want to thank Rebecca Torres and Jen Wolf for all of the contributions that they've made throughout their time on the EC. And now I'm going to be rotating off. I'll become past president, but Jen French will be taking the lead as the president. Ian Burkhart will taking the lead as vice president. Barry will be continuing as the treasurer. Taryn and Jose still have 1 or 2 years left on the executive council, and Jake Beckstrom will be starting in as a new executive council member for 3 years. So starting now, all of the executive council delegate positions will be 3-year periods, and they are now staggered so that every year someone will rotate off and a new person will be elected on. And I just want to say a couple of words. It's been a really wonderful journey being the first president of NASCIC. And I had agreed to stay on 2 additional years. And so these 4 years have really been an amazing growth. And it's really amazing to start to see actual changes in some of the things that we've been doing, even though they may seem like at the time they're never going to change or they come up with against resistance. But the latest change I saw in making sure that the lived experience is incorporated in research activities, a grant opening came out about a month ago from a certain institute at the NIH. And that particular grant was asking, it was about physical activity and people with disabilities. No, and they are requiring.
That's just the way life is, right? I like to focus on.
Okay. Anyway, that particular grant from NIH was requiring lived experience partners. And so that's a really, really big hurdle that we've gotten over. And I like to think that NASCIC can take some part of the influence in making that happen. And so we just need to, as a community, to keep doing those things that we feel are the right thing to do. And that is to have our community's voice included in all aspects of research and care. So I look forward to the new leadership taking over. I'll still be involved in a little bit as past president and as a member. And with that, I'm going to hand this back over to Jen, I'm giving up the remote control. And Jen, you can take over.
Great, thanks, Kim. Kim is going to be a tough shoes to fill, and thoroughly appreciate the leadership you've given us in the last 4 years of bringing together the community. And I hope I can follow in your footsteps in the growth of the organization, but more importantly, as you said, really embedding the lived experience of those of us living with spinal cord injury and those of us that are caregivers or family and friends to really get our voice heard in the community. So it's been a great journey. And I also am looking forward to working with Ian as our new vice president, as I'll be handing over projects to him. But today I want to give you a brief update on where we are with projects. As you may know, the NASCIC operates off of project partnerships, and we've been fairly active and have really worked with a lot of members of the community to start embed that lived experience, not only in research, but also design and development as well, and some of our advocacy roles. So for our project review committee, I really want to thank the members of the committee. So we have 10 members, and they're extremely active, and we have some lively meetings. So Anita Kaiser, Claudia Garfalo, Ian Burkhart, Jane Werbecki, Jared Kerr, John Adams, Noreen Fertig, and Rob Ludwig have been on for the last year, and we welcome Patricia Guiar as as our new member of the PRC. She just joined in the last month. And they've been extremely active in reviewing lots of requests that have been coming in, and I'll show you those to you in a minute. I also want to thank Jeff Weldon. He is our co-chair. It's a new position that we created really to help the vice president along, because there's been so much activity, but also to help guide some of the new members when there's questions and be a mentor for the committee. He also steps into the role when there's a conflict of interest or the VP is not available. So these are very active members of the committee, and it's always fun meetings to have. I will note that Ian will be taking over as vice president, so he will become the chair of the PRC, will be leading the project review committee. So that leaves an opening on our committee. So anyone out there that's interested, please let us know in joining our committee. So it consists of 10 members maximum, a minimum of 3. We meet on a monthly basis. As I said, we have lively discussions, but we're also active online and discussing with each other. Over last year, we've really developed an evaluation and tracking metrics for ongoing projects, but also looking at the performance of the committee and self-evaluating ourselves to see how we're performing. And there's new members coming in each year, so we always try to bring in fresh ideas and fresh eyes into what we're doing. We review both internal and external projects. So some of the internal projects are really a lot in terms of advocacy work, and also in terms of our partnership with the FDA as the patient and caregiver partner program. We are one of 18 members now with the FDA. And of course, anyone that's out there and who's in the research or an industry that's interested in partnering with us, we have both consumer engagement and letters of support, as well as research recruitment. A little bit about our metrics, like as I mentioned, that we developed over this last year is at this time, as of Q3 of 2021, at the end of Q3, we've had 10 active projects. To date, we've completed 4 of those projects within this year, and we've placed about 57 people living with spinal cord injury and or family members or caregivers in engagement assignments. And I'll explain what engagement assignments are and how people can be involved in a minute. We've also issued 16 letters of support and 5 research recruitment requests. So those who are recruiting people with spinal cord injury into clinical trials, we help them once that request is approved through our PRC. We help them in terms of recruiting and getting the word out throughout our community to find people who would like to be involved. I also mentioned earlier those internal projects, which are some research funding advocacy, which we've done with the NIH in the US and with Health Canada in Canada, but also through our partnership with the FDA. So what do we mean by engagement projects? So if you're interested, our engagement projects are really people with lived experience, people who are living with spinal cord injury, people who are caregivers, people who are close family members. And that's just where you're playing a role in terms of as an advisor, as helping to use your lived experience with spinal cord injury, and helping to shape what the next product development will be, what the next service development will be, what the next research course of research will be to help improve those processes. So we've been placing people on consumer advisory boards where they meet virtually with research groups or people level in industry to help shape whatever they might be developing. We've recruited people for focus groups to be involved on focus groups to give their input in the development and in completing community surveys. We have also had advocacy speaking engagements. So sometimes we have public speaking engagements where we really want to convey and communicate the lived experience. So we recruit people through the database for that as well. And for clinical trial recruitment, as I mentioned earlier. So if you're interested in getting involved and possibly joining us on some project engagements, please complete the form on our website for the project engagement database, and that's where we recruit. So, so that way, when we do a call out for participants, we recruit directly from that database, and you can find the link to that here on our website. A little bit about our projects. So we had 16 total projects. We have several that are currently still active over here on the left-hand side. I won't go through them completely, but they are all listed on our website. So if you want to find a little bit more about those research projects, you can go to our website and look at the details. We've completed a total of 5 projects that have been approved, and really 4 of them had been completed in this last year. So it's great to see projects come to completion and really gain some feedback, and I'll get into that feedback in just a second. But we also have 2 projects that are on hold. So this typically happens if a project team wants to pull in some advisors, but they're waiting for funding, for instance, or they're waiting for some of their milestones, so we'll put those on hold. A little bit about our PRC, which is an active group, as I mentioned, over the last year. Letters of support requests and research recruitment. We review about 5 of those per month and about 1 project per month overall, as we've seen from the statistics. We have a maximum of 10 people on our project review committee. And we've been very consistent on keeping 10 members on that committee. Sometimes people have to rotate on and off because of personal circumstances, which we're all familiar with living with spinal cord injury, but we recruit as well. And with the attendance at our meetings, the average attendance is about 7 members. So people are still active online, and we post all of our minutes. So our committee members remain active, but we do have some great and fun meetings. Currently, there's 96 people within our project engagement database that we recruit from, and about 60% of those within our database are assigned to projects. So it's a pretty good rate in terms of projects. When we're also wanting to look at some of the feedback that we're getting from some of these, what we call completed projects. So we've developed some post-project surveys, and we're still doing some of the preliminary analysis, but I wanted to share with you who we inquire, and also some of the feedback, the preliminary feedback that we've gotten so far. So project leads are people who are leading the project. Typically, they're an investigator or a member of a company in terms of product development, if you will. And those are the leaders of the project that help guide along actually what they're trying to achieve in that project. So we queried them about their expectations, the interactions that they have with the people that are assigned to them, the value that they felt that those people that were engaged into the project, the impact that their input had towards that project, but also the retention. Would these leaders be willing to come back and work with us? And I just put in 2 quotes here from our surveys, which I thought were a bit impactful. one researcher had told us that this kind of engagement between the research community and the advocacy is really critically shaping the research that we have today. And also another organization where we help to organize some focus groups, help to broaden the perspective of that research team and really understanding what it's like to live with spinal cord injury. So you as advisors out there, you're making an impact, and it's really nice to see that the researchers are also feeling the impact on their research and their development. So it's a shared experience, and we want to make sure that there's a good experience on both sides. For the advisors, these are people with lived experience who have been placed into these projects. So we asked them as well, those people that have been assigned, what was their experience like? So we asked about their expectations going into it, the time commitments of what they were expecting when they were assigned to the project, and whether the commitments were overwhelming, or whether they were just right, or whether it was much less than what they were expecting. What type of communication they had with the project lead and the project team, how they felt their value was perceived, if they had, they perceived the value that they provided as valuable, and also how they felt prepared for that experience. And I just put in 2 quotes here. There's lots of them from our surveys, but I wanted to share 2 of them with you. And one person said one thing that might have particularly been helpful for both the researchers and the NASIC team is having a better understanding up front of the information that will be needed. And really, we're taking that to heart, and that's part of what Barry will be talking about with the advocacy course. So we took that as a learned experience, and we've also adjusted some of our recruitment materials and information to help with that type of quote. So we're taking this feedback to heart and changing our processes. One of the other quotes was, having our lived experience valued and listened to in spaces where we typically aren't found is the heart of what made this experience important to me. And that's somebody with lived experience with spinal cord injury coming out from being an advisor. So understanding that your voices are being heard as well. So we'll have a full preliminary of our full evaluation of the project feedback here in the near future. And now at this point, I am going to hand it back over to Barry, because I mentioned about being prepared. And one of the things that he is doing is and leading, I should say, he has a whole team of people behind him, but in developing the spinal cord injury research advocacy course. So Barry?
Jen, is that Jen or Jess, who has control right now?
I have control right now.
That's
great. Okay? Okay.
That's fine. Perfect. All right. Well, thanks. Welcome, everybody. And thanks for the coming out today and listening to sort of a year in and a wrap up of what we're doing. These are actually very exciting times. And I have to tell you, the involvement with creating the SCI Research Advocacy course has been a bit of a labor of love. The passion that I'm seeing from our community is overwhelming. As we developed this piece, which was clearly a response to the community, and that for us to fulfill the community engagement, we really realized they had to take a step back and look at capacity and making sure that all of those people out there that want to be involved in research feel comfortable being involved in research. So next slide, please. And as we know in the past, there was sort of the initial beginnings of people being involved and asked to sit in research committees. And that was almost in a tokenistic way. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, but it was really the one person at a time. And that as we see a proliferation of the mandate, like for FDA, for example, or the Department of Defense, looking at mandating having the involvement, we're seeing more and more of people being asked to participate. But then as we did that, we realized there's an evolution of how we participate. So this chart here just kind of gives you an example of how we look at the involvement in being in terms of engagement. So you look at the one person, and then you get into multiple people in sort of a committee or a community. And then we build the partnerships within the community. And of course, community helps build more capacity. And this is the part where we come in with the SCI Research Advocacy course that we felt much like other conditions, and we'll talk about this a little bit down the road, is that we in the SCI community didn't really have a grounding of education that would help people not become neuroscientists or psychologists, but to become comfortable talking about their lives with spinal cord injury. The one thing we realized at the very beginning, and we want to push this every time, we are all experts in spinal cord injury, and nobody can take that away from us, and no diploma on a wall can make it any better than what we are. We know this stuff, and it's time that we're embedded more in the research process not at the end when they're looking at recruitment, but actually looking at the very beginning and designing studies. Next slide. So as I said, we really aim to help make SCI research more relevant and responsible. And this is not just an SCI, but it's really part of community engagement and other conditions that by involving the people from the outcome of the project, you engage the individuals who participate in research, and this way it doesn't hinder the lack of knowledge. It increases knowledge of the research process with the SCI community through resources and training. We organize and we educate researchers and healthcare providers. So this course that we're developing, I have to stress, is as much for researchers as it is for people with lived experience. And we're having a great response from the research community, who have all felt that many of them may not understand the daily life of the person living with SCI. And so when they start designing studies, they start to realize that there are obstacles and barriers or nuances in our life that they should consider up front. But without knowing that, they go ahead and do it sometimes to their detriment and have to go back and restart things. So by being involved in the beginning, it creates a better atmosphere for research. And at the end, what we want to do with NASCIC, we want to help facilitate placement of individuals. And that's working not so much as us doing it ourselves, but working with other organizations like United Spinal, all the SCI branches in Canada, as well as United Fight Paralysis, all these organizations out there, the PVA, that are looking to have more consumer, I'm using that word, I apologize, people with lived experience involved in research, and having them involved on these research committees, we can help coordinate the placement of them. That's our end goal with part of this capacity building project. Next slide. So we started with, I'm not sure where we're going here.
Sorry, I've had a bit of a malfunction. I apologize. Something's going on with my computer. Just going back. There we go. Apologize.
There we go. So part of our approach is a three-phase approach. What we did was we went out and searched out the community, and we looked at every single resource that we think we can find. And it wasn't just our environmental scan, we relied on others as well. And looking at what was out there in the SCI community that really was there to build capacity and research and help train advocates. And we got good pieces of this parts here and there, but not a complete end-to-end type of resource that could really bring people along through a full curriculum. So that's how we started building it that way, with permission of others, of course. The other thing we did was we looked outside the SCI community and we looked at other conditions. For example, Parkinson's, breast cancer, muscular sclerosis, ALS. They all offered some type of capacity building e-resource or in-person resource training program for advocates. And so we learned our lessons from some of them. I had great conversations. I got to tell you, talking to these other groups, they were more than generous with their time in helping us build what we could conceive as being a very thorough and robust resource piece. The next part is, which we're really in the middle of right now, is developing the curriculum. And really that we decided it's obviously going to go online, and I'll talk a little bit about it. And you'll see a video explaining it probably better than I can. That it describes the curriculum itself. And I just want to reiterate here, and we'll do it over and over again. When we say research, we mean all research in SCI. This is not a cure versus care thing. This is about research in SCI, because it's our opinion that any research that can help the condition of someone with lived experience, being now or down the road, can be good research as long as we're involved with that. And so we're all there to really create better research and to build advocacy and build more advocates out there who can work and be involved in the research itself, and then obviously in the design of the research. And then the third phase of what we will do is the dissemination. Once it's built, which we anticipate to be the spring of 2022, we will then work hard with our partners and helping to get the word out and ask people to participate in the curriculum. It's free of charge, and just have them be part of it and let them reshape and rebuild it. And of course, we can revise it as we go along. It is ours. When I say ours, this is all owned by the community, and it's not just a NASCIC piece. It's for all of us. So that we're excited about sharing that with everybody. Next slide. We've been very fortunate in the design of this, since it seems we've been at it for 18 months now. And I guess the pandemic helped kind of focus, because there wasn't some things we could do. So let's take a benefit out of that. Maybe we can put a silver lining to that cloud. But we had an opportunity of forming a working group, and this working group is absolutely amazing. and some of them are on the call today. It's made up of people with lived experience, caregivers, SCI researchers, physicians, industry representatives, funder representatives, and regulators, and neurosurgeons and clinicians. All have had the opportunity to participate. The working group helped design the original outline of the curriculum with help from staff. And then the working group itself is broken down into subcommittees to tackle specific modules as we go along, so they can do that. And then we go back and rewrite and send them out. And it goes back to the working group to commit. We meet once a month. And I tell you, I go in every meeting with an agenda and come out with more than we can handle in a good way, because a lot of these people, they are absolutely, sorry about that. They are absolutely passionate and fantastic in what they can bring to the table. And I'm always overwhelmed by how much people can help me and help us see new things every day we meet. So it's really an incredible opportunity to be part of. And that group keeps growing. They keep wanting to be more involved. So clearly we struck a chord that this is something that we can do together. Next slide. So this is a bit of a video on what's happening. And this is our introduction video to the program. I thought I'd share that with you because this is the look and what this program will look like in terms of its general look. And here you go.
Welcome to the North American Spinal Cord Injury Consortium's Research Advocacy course. We designed this course as part of a community effort to help more people with spinal cord injury, SCI, get engaged in research. People living with Parkinson's disease, cancer, and many other health conditions are helping researchers solve important medical and scientific problems. They do this by teaching researchers about what it's like to live with their health condition, by advising on research studies, and even by helping to rethink the ways that new treatments are evaluated and approved. People with SCI can do the same, and you don't have to be a scientist to help. If you have an SCI or take care of someone with an SCI, you're already an expert. You know things about living with SCI that can help a researcher understand what's important, what works, and what doesn't. If you've been hesitating to get involved because you don't think that you have the knowledge needed to participate or to speak on behalf of the community, then this course is for you.
Well, in order for people to advocate for research, they have to understand the process. They don't need to become scientists. They just need to become familiar with the process, some of the common terminology, some of the concepts, so that they can feel comfortable speaking up in a setting with a diverse group of individuals, including researchers, and providing their perspective within the context of what they're being asked.
This course is also for SCI researchers. Major funders and research institutions have grown to appreciate how people living with SCI can contribute to research and are requiring engagement of people who have SCI as a condition of funding. This course will teach you about the community and help you learn the skills needed to partner effectively.
This course is important for both the research community and the SCI community, because really what it does is it helps to educate on both sides. So you have people who are advisors with lived experience who are gaining some basic knowledge on research and the research process so they can be very effective advisors. But also it's to educate the researchers on the basics of living with chronic spinal cord injury and what it means to be in their daily lives.
We are excited to offer this course to help all the members of the SCI community feel more equipped and empowered to be partners in research. Thank you for registering.
All right, next slide there, Jess. So this is a brief outline of the modules that we've identified. And some might look at it in brief and think we're missing something, but I can be pretty confident to say that you might not necessarily recognize some of the titles, but or how things are distributed, but we think we've captured everything we can possibly capture in discussion of research advocacy. So the first module is just really an introduction. And then we talk about understanding the research process. And then we talk about addressing the historical challenges for SCI research. People need to know the background, why after 30, 40 years, we're sort of crawling along here. So they need to understand that there are reasons for that. And that's all about really advocating for change. We talk about how to evaluate partnerships and participation in research so that you yourself, and if you're involved with it, you're not there as a token. And of course, for researchers, we want them to identify that maybe they didn't realize that they might be treating somebody in a tokenistic way, but that's not necessarily their fault, but they might understand that and better understanding of this program. We talk about the biology of the injury because really people need to understand why is it when we have a spinal cord injury or a non-injury that's a trauma to the non-traumatic to the spinal cord, why things aren't working the way they are, and then what we're doing about it. And then the second part of that deals with secondary complications. And we all know that's a vast area. So we talk about that. We talk about neuroprotection. We talk about cell replacement, regeneration, neuroplasticity. And then there's a big one, quality of life. We don't try to be exhaustive on that, but we try to touch on the various aspects of quality of life research so that people can identify and categorize what that means. And then we have a special module designed specifically for SCI researchers. And it's really talking about people with spinal cord injuries for somebody that's not injured to understand a spinal cord injury and what the day in the life is in terms of, looking at activities of daily living, and et cetera. And of course, at the end, it's how we can get involved in the research process in general. It can be very passive or it can be very active. And that's up to the individual. Next slide. So that's it in a nutshell. I could go on all day, but I don't think I can. And the exciting part right now is that we're right in the middle of it and we're in the thick of things. And we're really reaching out to the community to help us evaluate these modules as we're drafting them. We're actually about to release the first 2 modules, one after the other, to different cohorts of people. And that includes everybody in the community. Again, like I say, people with lived experience, caregivers, the clinicians, researchers, you name it, anybody that can be touched by research. We'd love to have your input. And if you're interested in reviewing these modules as we produce them, please let us know. And you can sign up through these Google forms as you see the sign up part down there. And that will give you an opportunity to be on the ground floor and have your input. We want this thing vetted by the community so that when we release it in the spring of 2022, it's been through the ringer and that we hopefully don't miss anything. Can't guarantee that'll ever happen 100%, but it's an opportunity for us to really respond. We had a mandate coming out of the practice in 2016, a time when NASFIC was born and when we felt that we weren't part of the research process as a community, and then we felt that we had to do something about it. This is now where the rubber hits the road. We made our presentation at the NIH in the presentation of the Decade of Disruption meetings in February of 2019. And we came and we called the community out. We called the research community and say, things aren't going the way we are. We are not included, but we have to back that up. We're not going to be armchair quarterbacks and sit and complain about the process. We have to be part of it. And this is an example of how we can get involved. And the only way we can do that is really build in our own capacity so that we're comfortable in the setting and we can really, really give that input and make a difference when it comes to the research process. So I just want to thank everybody that's been involved to date. Look forward to working with everybody else. And just before I sign off, I want to thank you, especially Kim, for your leadership from the very beginning of this process, and obviously specifically for this area and how you understood and knew this was a very important part of what we do. I think down the road, when we look back, this will be part of your legacy and your leadership. And I'm very proud to say I've worked with you and I look forward to still working with you going forward, but allowing you some time off too. I think that's so intense as that has been. But I want to thank you, Kim, for all that you've done, and thank everybody today for listening.
Well, we all have to work together. And so now, actually, let's open up the floor or the window, if you want to call it that way. And is there any comments, any thoughts, any questions, anyone?
I think there's a few more slides from Jen. Is there?
Oh,
There is. Yeah. So that's okay. If anybody has any questions right now or any comments about the course, I want to thank Barry for his leadership on getting this done and all the people that have been involved. But any questions out there at this point? We want to open it up again for questions about anything, but I did want to just give a little bit of what the window is going to look like in 2022 and what we're planning on, and a lot of is the momentum that we've already created. So As I mentioned earlier, Kim has given us some great leadership over the last 4 years, being one of the founding members and as we created this organization. So you laid the foundation for us. Now we're going to keep building the building and building the tower of community-led collaboration of those of us in the spinal cord injury community. So not just those with lived experience, but those who are researchers and clinicians and those in industry and funding, so we can all work together to move spinal cord injury care, cure, and policy and research forward to make our lives better and drive spinal cord injury research. So just a little bit about what we're going to see in 2022. I mentioned that, we've laid the foundation. So, we talked about project partnerships, and those are going to continue, as we see that grow. Also, one of the other things that we've launched since the inception of the North American Spinal Cord Injury Consortium is SCItrials.org. So those of you out there that are interested in becoming being involved in spinal cord injury research as a participant, that website is very easy to search. It makes looking for spinal cord injury clinical trials much easier. And all of that data is actually collected from clinicaltrials.gov, which is not the easiest site to use, but also curated and reviewed by people with lived experience to help put some of the research, what they're looking for in the lay language. So you don't have to be a scientist to understand what's involved in that clinical trial. So it's a great tool out there. And that was built actually, again, by going out to other organizations for other indications like Parkinson's disease with the Fox Finder and developing a tool similar to that. So those already exist, and we're going to keep those moving along and improving them iteratively here in the future. And now Barry just presented the SCI research advocacy course. We plan on launching that and pulling out all those modules in 2022. And again, when it comes out, we know it's not going to be perfect, but we're going to iteratively improve it along the way. And that's part of having reviewers, to sign up for reviewers, but also for people to take the course and be ready to be involved and be placed into being an advisor for various research projects. One of the other things that we're going to be developing, starting in 2022 and on, is what we call engagement services. And this is kind of an extension of both the research advocacy course and project partnerships. And again, we're still in the designing phases of these research services, but what we found a need for, but also we've gone out and queried people with other indications with other conditions, and what they've done is helping to design engagement projects. So not just, hey, we're going to place people as advisors, for instance, on a research team, but how do you design that consumer advisory board, the communication that happens with it, and be able to get that feedback. So it's more of a design services. So that you'll be hearing a lot more about that into 2022 and beyond. So all of these raindrops, if you will, underneath our umbrella are all connected in one way or another, but the focus of all of that is to embed the lived experience into the research process, and all of them are complementary to each other. But also a big focus of all of that, of all those activities, is bringing our community together. So it's about building a collaborative spinal cord injury community. So it's not just the advocacy organizations and the research organizations living separate in their silos, but bringing everybody together to have a collective change and a collective voice. So we look forward to you being involved. We look forward to listening to you so we can help change the landscape for spinal cord injury and really how we created the organization, and helping to move that forward and grow so we can see an impact from spinal cord injury. So again, I want to thank Kim for your leadership in the organization. I'm happy that you're not completely going away and at least staying on as an advisor for our executive council. Also want to thank Jen and Rebecca for serving in the executive council. So your involvement and advisement has really helped us along the way. And thank you all that are out there for being involved, for joining us, and where you would like to be involved. We want to hear from you. So I think now we can open up the floor for any questions. We've got about 10 minutes left. Any questions, any comments? We want to move this into an open forum.
Jen, this is Dave Dombrowski. On the previous meeting, I had actually signed up to offer any assistance with the course reviews and kind of helping to pilot and provide inputs, and did it a couple of different ways. Once through the Q&A here, and then also went online and sent something in, but never got any feedback. So I figured you were full up. So if you're still looking, I'm still interested.
Actually, thanks for that, Dave. Good to hear from you. Thanks for joining us. Yes, so I'll give the short answer and then I'm going to hand it over to Barry. But so we have been recruiting and we are about to start engaging, sending out the first few modules for reviewers, and that will be happening here in the near future. We had a little bit of a setback, but anticipate it here in the near future for us to reach out to you. Barry, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, Dave, and thanks for your input. You're actually just about to be approached, so no worries, you haven't been forgotten. We were a little delayed in getting off the ground, but it looks like it's full steam ahead with our cohorts and asking for help. So watch your emails, that it's a coming very soon.
Okay, thanks. Always good to step forward and get tapped.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dave. And that's the same thing goes for the project engagement database if you're interested in becoming an advisor. So sometimes there's an ebb and flow with projects and assignments. We had quite a lot of activity earlier this year with focus groups and assignments to advisory boards. And there was a lot of activity with our database, and that has slowed down in the second half of the year. However, we've got 2 other projects in the pipeline that will be coming up, and we'll start recruiting for those here in early 2022 once they're approved and refined. So again, sometimes you might sign up onto a database, you might not hear anything for a little while, but we'll be tapping you for recruitment as the requests come in. Any other thoughts out there? I see in the comments, yeah, thank you, Jane. Jane Werbecki has been a member of our PRC. So thank you for all of her input. And she's been one of our United Spinal representatives serving on the project review committee. And it's been some great input from her.
Anita says, bring on 2022.
I think we're in more ways than one, Anita, right? So I think we're all ready to bring on another new year to us. But and also Jen Wolf, yeah, thank you, Jen Wolf, for all your support and your input. You know, Jen Wolf, when we introduced her, she's lives with a spinal cord injury, but she's also an occupational therapist, so she has a really unique perspective on things. So it's great to have your input along the way.
Hi, Jen, this is Jane. I do have one question, and I just want to be certain I understand it correctly. So when the modules are all ready for review, and I know Barry mentioned you want them to be reviewed by as many people as possible, then do you welcome us to share it with all of our networks and contacts, or anyone who might have input? You'd like us to share that as widely as possible, is that correct?
Yeah, but ideally, Jane, what we'd like to do is identify who they were and somewhat organize it, so it's not sort of that way we can properly measure the feedback coming back. But yeah, we actually have reached out to United Spinal and various chapters and have made some presentations, some of the regional meetings as well, with thanks to Jose and company that have helped.
Great.
But oh yeah, we are very open, and we'd love to go offline at some point and talk to you about identifying another cohort if you can think of a specific kind of collection of people that we'd love to reach out to and involve in the program.
Great, thank you, will do.
And the modules will probably be rolling out 1 or 2 at a time. the team has developed a really thorough process for how they go from nothing to creating the various stages of content and the working group refining it and then getting it ready to go out to people for review.
Great, thank you.
And just to add one more thing to the course is that once the course is ready to go and for people to take the course and go through those modules, there is this kind of completion process for it. And part of that is really the course will be free. So for those of you with lived experience that want to go through the course and learn about the research process and the various aspects, it will be available for free to attend the course. And it also it helps in terms of preparation for becoming an effective advisor. So we'd love to have people, as many people as possible, go through the course when we're ready.
And also, I guess one last plug is if anyone, maybe wasn't too involved in NASCIC, but they feel like they're ready and there's something that you want to be involved in, whether it's with the course or the project review committee or the outreach committee or in many other things that are up and coming, there's always room for more people to be involved. So you can always just reach out to any of us or the info website and say, hey, I'm interested in being involved in such and such. Is there something I can do? And we'll find a way to have people involved.
Absolutely, Ken. And that goes for those in the audience who are part of our research community. Really, let's say you want to have an engagement program and engage people with spinal cord injury, but you're not too sure how or how to recruit. That's part of what we're here for. So please reach out to us if you're interested in engaging people with spinal cord injury to help improve the research process. Well, finally, I want to congratulate Ian for coming on as our VP. So Ian Burkhart, thanks so much. We're really looking forward to working with you in 2022. Barry, thanks for your leadership on the officers as well. And I also want to thank Jessica. She always makes us look good and keeps us on track. So Jessica, thank you for all the work, the hard work that you do in the background that you don't always see, but we know and we acknowledge how much work that you do. So, and thank you for all those who have been involved in NASCIC going forward, and we hope you will be involved more in the future.
And here's to good 2022.
Here's to 2022. Thank you, everyone. I hope everyone has a great holiday. Thank you, Anita. Happy holidays. Thanks, Daryl Rock, for thanking us. And we hope everyone has a great holiday season, a happy Hanukkah, a Merry Christmas, and here's to 2022 and moving forward